Hello, beautiful cosmic energy activators. I am so happy to be here with you once more to share a little bit of wisdom on consciousness, the nature of the self and the nature of the mind. So this is an introductory video for a theme that we are going to be going deep, 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 deep within throughout the entire course. Certainly we'll be spending some time at the first retreat really going into the heart of our own soul, of us, who we truly are, true essence. And also learning to observe the mind, developing an awareness of the mind-body complex from the seat of our soul. So I'm going to say that again. We will learn to observe the mind or the mind-body complex. So the mind-body complex is the integrated nature of the mind and the body working together. Okay, so much of the energies of the mind are not just housed in the head where we can be heady, we can feel like it's up here, but also in the body. Often when we have feelings and sensations, it's a part of our mind field that's residing in various parts of our body. So we are going to be learning to observe the mind-body complex from the seat of our soul. So let's start there. So the soul, what is the soul? The soul does not reside in the body. If you look for the soul in the body, you're not going to find it. Scientists have been looking and looking and looking, and it's not necessarily there, because the soul exists on another field, another dimension, another realm or dimension of energy that is surpassing just this physical reality. So yes, we have a body and we can feel the body, and we have a mind, and the mind is tangible. It's like speaking to us a lot of the time. The soul is something it has a different quality. Like I feel it around me and in me, but then I know, as I've been on my spiritual journey and I've been growing and I've been doing more energy work, I know that I can also locate my soul really far from my body. And I can identify myself in other realms also, where I feel like, okay, well, my body is really far behind somewhere else, yet the true essence of me is still here and nothing has changed. That essence of me exists as I am right now in this moment on that other dimension. And so without really wanting to put any experiences to you or label anything or tell you how it is you're going to feel, I just want to share this awareness of the soul and what soul is. Soul isn't just in here. We emanate from our heart, and soul very much can be anchored within our heart energy, and at the same time soul exists on another field, another dimension, all in its own. So our higher self is that same energy of the soul. It's really the higher aspect of ourself, that all-seeing, unconditionally loving, non-judgmental energy, that true essence of who we really are. Because we are not just our mind. Those thoughts, those patterns, those behaviors that we observe, or sometimes, we don't observe, we just do. That isn't just the totality of who we are. And we're going to be learning throughout this course how, yes, we have created an identity based on our past experiences and the adverse child experiences and the trauma and the karma that we've created an identity based on this. And we've allowed ourselves to step into this identity and become that identity to an extent, and really blend with these notions and ideas of ourselves that the mind has created. Yet that isn't all of who we are. So no, what I'm not saying is that we're going to completely suppress all of that or throw all of that out the window. What I'm saying is that we're going to recognize that those are aspects of us, and we're going to honor that our mind has a really important role to play in our system. And also that our mind is created and constructed in a specific way in order to protect us. and at the same time isn't the totality of who we are. We want to honor the mind, honor the mind-body complex and how it works, and work out what makes us tick. And we're going to do all of that from the seat of our soul. And we're going to teach you the tools and techniques to keep coming back and anchoring into that soul, that seat of soul, and seeing and observing the mind and the body complex, and learning to see and observe that from a place of detachment also, which is something we're going to grow in more and more of. You might notice that there are some aspects of yourself that you can observe like with grace and ease, that it seems easy to be able to like, oh, okay, I see that, and to kind of not have really any judgment, and to be even able to have compassion for yourself, or that part of yourself, or that part of your mind. And then you might notice that, you know, maybe at another time that you were completely blended in a moment of anger with a particular aspect, a part of you, that there wasn't any awareness there. You just were angry. You were in that. You just felt enraged, you know, and felt that you had to behave in a certain way. Or you were in a survival instinct and you just had to really do what needed to be done in that situation, and you had to blend with this part of you that's just like, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get what I need to do, I'm going to use force, I'm going to say what I need to say, and then I'm going to come out of that situation. And there was no being aware in that situation. You just had to blend, and you had to do what needed to be done. And all of this is okay. And in time, we're going to learn to be able to, in those challenging circumstances, actually be able to still be there and still show up with what needs to show up, but from a slightly different perspective, from the confidence and clarity and courage of your higher self, because in that we can channel a greater abundance of energy. So with a mind-body complex, we have parts, as I've been mentioning. We have lots of different parts of us. We don't just have one ego that's like one way of being, one way of thinking. And surely you have seen that. You know, you may be invited to go to a gathering, and a part of you is like really excited and wants to go, but then another part of you is just doesn't want to go there for whatever reason, doesn't want to spend money, doesn't want to see certain people or whatever. And you have these conflicts, these completely polarized parts of you, and this internal conflict, and often indecision happens, or often you just kind of side with one part, whichever feels right, whichever is more dominant, or whichever makes more sense in that moment. So this is an example of how we have two completely different separate parts of us, two aspects, two personalities, two masks, two energies, two parts of us. And they have their own belief systems, and they have been created, their identities have been created in their own way. And ultimately, these parts of us are here to protect us. They are all united with that same intention, which is to protect us and guide us. And often these parts of us have been with us since we were born. They came with a body, or they came with this soul in order to guide and protect us on planet Earth. But what happens is, when we experience trauma or adverse childhood experiences, or even adult experiences, the mind parts start to change their behavior in order to protect us. In some extreme cases, those parts of us can become very insecure, very fear-driven, very anxious, worrying, stressed, really just not feeling empowered, you know, and can often start to drift further and further away from our true self, from the seat of our soul. And so what we're going to be teaching you is how to come back to a place of unity, how to create that unity, and how to start to bring back and gather back the mind-body-spirit complex toward the soul, how to build that relationship of trust again. You know, these experiences that we've had, these traumas, these karmas, the burdens, the adverse childhood experiences, it's almost as if that part of the mind that was witnessing what was happening at that time just didn't feel like we had it. We had that moment, that we were protected or safe enough, that we had the ability in that moment to protect ourselves. And so the mind had to come in and be like, I'm going to handle this situation. But now, as we're adults, we're awakening spiritually, we're broadening our tool set, we're becoming more aware. It's an opportunity for us to come back and speak to these parts of us and say, you know what? I've got this now. I've been doing my work, and I can be trusted to be the guide, be the leader of my own destiny, of my flow, of manifesting my path. And so we're coming back into recalibrating this relationship with the mind, of developing a dialogue with the mind that is loving, that is compassionate, that is clear. For many years, I just suppressed so many parts of myself. I would have voices coming up of doubt and insecurity and telling myself I wasn't good enough, and I would just kind of push it aside or numb myself down with drugs and alcohol. And, that was a way of self-medicating and getting these voices to quieten down. But now I'm able to actually speak with those parts of me and not suppress them anymore, bring them back into my field of influence and actually say to those parts, you know what, I really see that you're there, and I really want to work with you. I really want to hear what you have to say. I want to be able to support your needs. And we can come into a completely different relationship with our mind-body complex, where we're tending to their needs, where we're looking at what vulnerability is under them. And then eventually we're getting to the burdens of the trauma that are still sitting within our energy field. So it's these traumatic burdens, it's the energy of the karma, which is called the samskara. It's this dense energy which is sitting in our field, which is weighing us down. And once we can release those bondages, we can truly let go and surrender to what happened to us. That energy doesn't need to sit in our field anymore. We become lighter and we become clearer channels of light. And it's really important for us, as we're on this path of becoming more self-aware, of healing ourselves, but then also becoming healers and teachers and conscious leaders of tomorrow. It's important that we have integrity in our own path, that we recognize that the stuff that we're carrying is actually going to get in the way of the healing work and the teaching work that we're going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to really be aware of that and be in our integrity to work on that stuff continuously. It's important to have a regular self-practice, a regular routine. It's important to be mentored and coached and get supervision and therapy ourselves, because this is the integrity that we are going to rely on as healers and teachers of tomorrow. So I'm not saying that you have to be completely 100% healed before you can start teaching or supporting anyone, because that's unrealistic too. We're always picking up stuff. I don't know if I've ever met anyone who's 100% healed. Certainly none of my teachers have been. And so what we're just going to be doing is stabilizing into this practice of just working on ourselves. And it's in a way where, like, it's fun. We're in our joy and our bliss, and we're laughing and playing when we're doing our healing. That is the dream of being an activated human on planet Earth, that our healing can be fun. So I think I've pretty much shared the kind of fundamental basics of the nature of the mind and the nature of the self. It's this absolute basic 101 nature of the mind and nature of the self. We are most certainly going to be diving deeper and deeper and deeper into consciousness. It's one of the central components of this training. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you soon.